Getting paid is always good. Well, I'm excited to be here. I know this is a little bit of a smaller group for me, but to be honest with you, I like it actually. It makes it a little more intimate for me, so that not only you can see who I am up close, but I can see who you are as well, and really get a chance to know you um, for the hour that we're going to spend with each other. Since we are so small, I actually wouldn't mind trying to do this because I'm usually good at remembering names and faces, and I would like to be able to get to know every one of you. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe just going around and saying your name and anything. If you feel like you need to say anything else, but your name would just be perfect. So
Carlos.
Carlos,
Roxy,
Roxy,
Mary Jo, Happy Halloween.
thank you.
Christian.
Christian,
Taylor.
Taylor,
Pat.
Pat,
Trish,
Trish,
Leanne.
Leanne,
Molly,
Molly,
Jim.
Jim,
Terry.
Terry,
Callie.
Callie,
Callie.
Sabrina,
Kimberly.
Kimberly,
Londa.
Londa.
Beth.
What is it?
Beth.
Beth. And you, sir? Kevin. All right. I'll try to remember your names. Like I said, I'm usually pretty good, but if I forget, forgive me. But I've been in Montana for going on just about 7 weeks. Been speaking in Billings, speaking in all of Western Montana. I've been in Butte a couple of times, speaking to the schools. I was in Anaconda. I even went down to Little Lima, Montana, in the southwest part. So I've been just having fun doing this, and the reason I'm here is to encourage you in the point of life that you are in. You know, I understand that you're probably in a hard part of life right now. And I think it's really cool that you are here, because this is a step in the right direction. Something like this that you can do on your own is a step for you saying, you know what, I don't want to do these things anymore. I want to go and I want to do something with my life. And so, as a young man, I applaud you for that. To take those steps, to do those things, because they are hard. I realize that. But I want to talk to you about what I've had to go through. Because some of the things that I have gone through, you can't relate to. Some of the things you have gone through, I cannot relate to either. So I want to be able to encourage you with what I have been able to go through, and in hopes that you take that and you use it for yourself. So that when you feel like you can go back out into the real world, you can be successful. And you can tell yourself that you're going to do something great. So I want to just talk about myself really quick, my physical disability. Or first off, I'll tell you where I'm from. I'm from Seattle. I'm 22 years old. And I was born with a rare birth defect that deformed both my arms and my legs. The name of my disability is pseudo-thalidomide tetraphocomelia. Pseudo-thalidomide tetraphocomelia. It's a mouthful, I know. But what that means is that my arms and legs just did not grow properly. So if you look between your wrist and your elbow, you have two bones in both your arms. They're called your radius and ulna bones. Both of those bones are missing on both my arms. For whatever reason, they just did not grow. From your elbow to your shoulder, you have what's called your humerus bone. You can see how long yours is. Mine's probably 2 inches long, maybe. So you can think about it as just my hand connected to my shoulder. My hands, everybody make a fist. This is my fist. The reason it doesn't look like yours is I can only bend the index finger on both hands. That's the only finger that will bend at the knuckle. I can move my other 3 fingers, and my thumbs don't work. They just like to enjoy the party. And my legs, my tibia and my femur are fused together, so I can't straighten my legs at all. It's a solid bone from my ankle all the way up to my hip. So I can't straighten my legs at all. So I walk on one knee and one foot. That's how I walk, and then I get around on my Razor scooter, and I want to go fast. And then I also have a wheelchair that I use when I'm in Seattle. It's unfortunately too big to put on the airplane. So, and then this blue device that you see on the side of my head, that's my hearing aid. I had a procedure done in last December, and the doctors went in and they implanted a post into my head, and part of it sticks out, and this part snaps on, and then vibrates my eardrum, and then I can hear 100%. And then the reason I need a hearing aid is I don't have any ear canals. Bone grew over them when I was born, so sound is not able to get in. So the sound comes through this thing, vibrates that post, then my skull, and then my eardrum, and then I can hear 100%. Despite the fact that I have done, or that I do look so different, that my disabilities look insurmountable. I can do a lot of things that you have done in your life or that you might be doing right now. I played basketball for 2 years when I was in junior high school. I played the drums for 3 years when I was in high school. I played the snare drum. And I just finished my 17th season of Challenger Little League Baseball. And I actually just hit my first home run in the game. So, you guys are funny. So like I said, I can do a lot of things that you could do. I just have to do them a little different. Ruth is sitting right down here. She's my service dog. You've probably all seen her when you walked in. She's probably the coolest dog in the entire world. I'm just saying that because she's mine. But I will be honest, she's probably the smartest dog I've ever ran into. She knows 50 different commands. Anything from turning lights on and off to opening and closing doors, picking things up, tugging my socks off. And maybe I'll show you a couple of things at the end. And the other thing that she knows how to do is sometimes when I'm having a rough day and I'm in need of a hug, I have probably the best hugger in the entire world, so I'll show you that at the end. But I want to talk a little bit about this acronym I came up with for the word clear. And I came up with this acronym to show people just like you on how I've been able to be successful in my life. In my situation, the situation that was given to me. And I think it's 5 things that you can use in your life to be successful in the situation that you are in right now. You know, when you're driving at night and you decide to put a pair of sunglasses on, you can't see very well, right? You can't see where you're going. You don't know where your end result is. You might not even know where the street is. You can't see where you are going. Your perspective is off. It's blurred maybe. When you take those sunglasses off and you turn the lights on in your car when you're driving at night, you can see where you are going. You can see the yellow lines to make sure that you're on the right side of the street. You can see the building that you get to when you want to get there. You see your end destination. If you have a clear perspective, you will see where you are going to go with your life. That is something that I have learned over the last 22 years. And it's helped me get through my hard times because I know that I have a plan for my life. And my plan for my life is doing what I'm doing right now. It's talking to people just like you, encouraging them in the different areas of their life that they're in. And telling you that it's going to be okay. It is. You might be sitting here saying, Gabe, you don't know that. You don't know that's going to be okay. I do. I do know that it's going to be okay because I have been able to walk this thing out. I've had courage. I've had leadership in my life. I've had to endure. I've had a positive attitude through the things that I've had to go through. And I've had a respect for myself to know that I'm going to get where I want to go. I want to go through each one of those letters and tell you a little story about myself. And hopefully you can walk away with something for you. The first letter is C, which stands for courage. Now, I've had to have a lot of courage in my life because somebody in my situation is not supposed to go very far. Society tells somebody like me that you're not allowed to have your dream job. You're not allowed to do what you want to do. I'm not allowed to have the friends that I have. Society puts a lid on me and tells me I'm not allowed to go anywhere. But I'm not like that. I'm an outgoing person. I love doing things. So I mentioned I played basketball for 2 years. So my parents, they said, I went to my parents and I said, Mom, Dad, I want to play on the 7th grade basketball team. And they looked at me and they said, well, I don't know about that. You know, you're 3 feet short. The hoop is 10 feet tall. There's a little bit of a height difference. No joke. This was the first thing that came out of my mouth. The first thing was that I said, well, if they foul me, I won't be able to make my free throws. I could have said, well, you're right. The kids are going to be are taller, faster, stronger. I won't be able to. No. The first thing that I thought of was that I would be the worst free throw shooter on the team. So they said, okay, we'll go talk to your coach and we'll see what he says. So we set up a meeting with the coach. And right before we went in to this meeting, I was sure he was going to say no. I was convinced that he was going to tell me, Gabe, you're not tall enough. You're not fast enough. You can't shoot, so you can't score. You won't help the team. I was sure he was going to say that. But I wanted to find out what he would let me do, if he would let me play. So we went in and we asked him. And we said, Coach, I want to play on the basketball team. What do you think? It took him about 2 seconds to answer, and he said yes. Now, you have no idea how excited I was when he said yes. My mom likes to say that I wanted to sleep in my jersey that night. I was so excited. Because I got to play with the regular kids. I had 2 career assists over the 2 years that I played. So I made it in the book. Now something happened to me that I did not want to happen. I could have cared less if this would have happened to me. It was good. It was probably the coolest thing that had ever happened to me, but it was not something that I wanted to have happen. And that was right after the game, my last game of my first year. A local news station came and did a story on me. They did a nice story on how this young man was able to play basketball. And I thought that was cool. Being 13 years old and being on a local news station, you think you're pretty darn cool. Then the Seattle Times called, the major newspaper out in Seattle. And they said, Gabe, we want to do a story on you. So I said, all right. They said they had a reporter follow me around for a whole month, trying to figure out who this young man named Gabe Murphy was, what he was all about. So this article came out April 13th, 2003. I want you to remember that date, April 13th, 2003. Before that article came out, the same year, a couple weeks before, the Mariners called, Seattle Mariners. They said, Gabe, we want you to throw out the first pitch of the Mariners game. You got April 12th, 13th, or 14th. So I said, okay. I'd choose April 13th. April 13th, 2003 was my 13th birthday. So when I got to throw out the first pitch of the Mariners game, and then be on the cover of the Seattle Times that same day, it's a pretty darn good 13th birthday present. The coolest thing for me was that the Mariners won in the 13th inning. So if you can't tell by now, my number is 13. Good Morning America wanted me to be on their show just shortly after that, so I was. And then a very nice lady named Oprah Winfrey called. She wanted me to be on her show, so I was. Where I got to meet Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, the cast of Spider-Man. And then I got to meet my hero, in my opinion, the best baseball player ever, Cal Ripken Jr. Now, like I said, that was probably the funnest summer I've ever had. Probably one of the funnest summers any 13-year-old has had. But I did not want that to happen. I don't like talking about it, to be honest with you. I don't like coming up to random people and say, hey, guess what? My name's Gabe and I was on Oprah. That's just not who I am. So I don't look at it as, that's why I played basketball. The reason I played basketball was because I wanted to play on the regular team. I wanted to prove something to people. That I could do something with the regular kids that people thought I wasn't capable of doing. I want you to have courage in your life. This step, this place that you're at right now, this meeting that you are at right now, I think that's a step of courage. I think that's you're stepping out and saying, I need help. Yeah, other people might think of it as weird. Yeah, other people might think of it as I have a problem. But you're looking at it for yourself, and you're stepping out and saying, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm going to get help. It takes courage, people, to get help. Trust me. It's not easy. The way I look at courage is taking that fear that is going to be right in your face when you want to try to do something. Taking that fear and removing it, and then moving forward. Because if you can do that, then you will get to where you want to go. Because you never know what will happen if you have courage. You never know. Like I said, I did not know that I was going to be on Oprah when I played my 7th grade and 8th grade year of basketball. I did not know that. It happened, and it was the coolest thing in the world because I got to inspire tons of people that watch those shows. You never know until you have the courage to step out. Courage also goes along with reaching out to other people. With reaching out to maybe the people in your classes, or maybe the people in your community, or wherever you work. Which is why my next letter is L, and it stands for leadership. Now, I believe leadership is very important. I believe it's important to have a good leader in your life, and I believe it's important to be a good leader to other people. I have an older brother. His name is Zane. He's 25 years old. He's able-bodied, so his arms are long and his legs are normal. And he is my leader. I look up to my brother Zane. I love my brother Zane. We get along great. We love playing with each other or hanging out with each other. And he has helped me do things that I don't think I would have been able to do on my own. Like play basketball. Even speaking, he really encouraged me to do this. When I went to high school, my brother, like I said, he was 3 years older, so he did not go to high school with me because where I come from, we have 3-year high schools. So I went into high school, and I had a very hard time in high school. But before I went into high school, I probably had more friends than you could even think of. More friends than you could probably even count. Now, I'm not trying to brag about it, but I'm trying to help you see that somebody in my situation is not allowed to have that many friends, but I did. And it was the neatest thing in the world. It was so cool being able to go over to friends' house every weekend, to have sleepovers, to go to the football games on Friday night, to go to movies. It was a lot of fun. But something changed in high school. I noticed something was different. I went through high school. 3 years of high school, and I knew probably 5 people. I went from hundreds of friends to 5 people. You could say my 3 years of high school were very lonely. To this date, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. You know, people ask me, they say, Gabe, is having a disability hard? I say, yeah, it's hard. There are some things that I don't want to have to deal with on a daily basis. But being lonely is harder. Now, I made it through my high school years. I did it. I graduated. I was in the band. So I don't want to say that my high school experience was 100% bad, because I had some good times in there too. Some of those people made a conscious decision to look at me different. I believe that. I believe that they decided to look at me and say, well, he's in a wheelchair, so we can't hang out with him anymore. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it happened, but it did. Some of these kids did not know how to ask me how to do things, though. Some of them did not have the courage to say, hey, Gabe, you want to go out to the movies with us? Or, hey, Gabe, do you want to go to the football game? They did not know how to ask. I think their lack of courage led to their inability to lead. Each and every single one of you are leaders in this room. You have somebody that looks up to you. Somebody that wants to be like you. Now you might be sitting here and saying, Gabe, how can you tell me that? I'm sitting in this room and I'm here getting help for myself because maybe I made a bad decision. Why would somebody want to be like me? Because when you're done with this program and you've changed your life, somebody will look up to you and say, wow, look at what they did with their life. I want to follow them. I want to be like them. I want to have the same attitude that they did, the same work ethic that they did. That's how I know that each and every single one of you are a leader. You can be leaders to each other. You know, when maybe somebody calls you and say, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. Can you help me? Say, yeah, I can help you. Leadership, it'll take you a long ways, because if you can be leaders to each other, other people will start following you, and you can change the world. You might think Gabe, that's a big thing to say. Change the world? Yeah. I think big. My motto is go big or go home. So I'm talking about you changing the world. That's what a good leader will do. And I see that in every single one of you as I'm sitting here. I know that each and every one of you has that ability, and I know that you will be a good leader, and that you already are a good leader. I know that. The next letter is E, which stands for endurance. Now, I've had to endure a lot in my life. You know, physically trying to figure out how I was going to, do stuff in the morning, get myself dressed, eat breakfast in the morning. Do daily things. It probably takes you seconds to do, but it takes me minutes. It's just different things like that. Emotionally, I've had to go through a lot too. Where, some of the things that kids will come up and say to me that aren't very nice. I have to get through those things too, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But probably the hardest thing that I've had to go through in the most recent years was when I went to the University of Washington. Now, the University of Washington is a very big school in Seattle. 45,000 people go to this school, so it's its own little city. Our colors are purple and gold, and our mascot were the Huskies. I bleed purple and gold. I'm serious. I bet you if you cut me open, I bet you purple and gold will come out somewhere. I have probably too many purple shirts to count. I'd say it's something different about the Huskies. That shows you how big of a Husky fan I was going into college and how big of a Husky fan I still am. I love Need some Huskies. So when I got into college, right out of high school, especially to a prestigious university like that, I felt pretty cool. I remember getting my acceptance letter. And I didn't have Ruth at the time, but we have a yellow lab at home. And my parents weren't home. We don't have the cat anymore, but there was a cat and my dog. And I checked up on the internet to see what my status was, and it said accepted. And I just flipped out. I mean, I started going nuts. My dog thought I was like going insane. My cat was like, oh my gosh, what is this guy doing? I was running through the house. I started calling people. And then I don't know how I thought this, but I just thought, there's probably something in the mail. Well, my mom we had accidentally left my wheelchair in the van. And I didn't have my scooter. I was so excited. I walked all the way up to the top of the driveway, grabbed a brick from the neighbor's yard that I probably wasn't allowed to take, stood on it, opened it, and there was a huge purple packet waiting for me. That just shows you how excited I was when I went to the University of Washington. My first year went very well. I did well academically. I made some good friends. And it was a good time for me. My second year did not go as well as I would have liked to have had it gone. I moved out to an apartment with a buddy of mine. And he was a good friend of mine. I had known him since elementary school. And he would just ask me to go do just your typical college things, go to movies, go eat somewhere, go to the football game or the basketball game, or go even play soccer or something. Just out of class activities. So, but I got to the point where my friend would ask me to do things, and I didn't have very many friends at that time. Not because of what I went through high school, but more just because life was happening. Our majors were taking us different ways. But my friend would ask me to do things. And I had this mentality that if he asked me to do something and then I said no, he would stop asking me, and then I would have nobody to hang out with. So he would ask me to do something, and then I'd have a homework assignment due. And then I'd look at my homework assignment and I'd say, oh, I'll just do it later. And then later came, and then it was too late. Then another homework assignment would come in, and I'll just do it later. Too late. Until I pretty much stopped doing my homework altogether. And then I got in the way of me going to my classes. He would ask me to do something, and I'd have to go to class, and I'd say, I have a note taker, so I don't need to be there. So I had a note taker that would take my notes, because sometimes I couldn't keep up. So I'd go down to the disability office, and it was like I was there, because I had notes from the lecture. So that's what I decided to do. I just decided to say it was like I was at class, so I'm just not going to go. So I stopped going to my classes altogether. Then I went on spring break that quarter. And I had an email sitting on my computer from the University of Washington. And his email read something like this. It said, "Dear Mr. Murfitt, we're sorry to inform you, but you've been dropped from the University of Washington." That was a hard time in my life. Because I did not know what I was going to do anymore. I did not know where I was supposed to go, because that was my dream. My dream was to be a Washington Husky. And that dream had been ripped right out from under me. Now, I don't want to blame anything on that young man that asked me to do those things. It was not his fault at all. It was my fault. I was the one that decided to stop doing my homework. I was the one that decided to stop going to my classes. So my parents, they said, "Gabe, well, you're going to have to move home." So I said, okay. And that was even hard, because I had built up all this independence, living on my own. And then that was taken away from me too. So it was almost kind of like a double whammy, so to speak. So I go home, and I had a 6-month summer. Most people would be happy with a 6-month summer. I was not. Because every day I sat and I reflected on what I was supposed to do, or what I had done, and where I was going to go. Because I didn't know. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do with my life now. You have to realize that I could have spent those 6 months doing absolutely nothing. I could have spent those 6 months with my lights off and slept for 24 hours a day and not let anybody know what was going on. And just said, you know what, I'm done with life. I don't want to do this anymore because it is too hard. That choice was given to me. But I knew that I had something bigger for me in store. I knew that there was a plan for my life, and this plan was going to be amazing. So my parents, they said, Gabe, how about you go to community college? I said, okay. They said, how about you get your associate's degree so you can kind of start over? I said, okay, I will do that. And I went and got my associate's degree last December. Throughout this whole process, my mom and I, we were writing a book. Came out in April. Actually, on my birthday. And I could sit here and tell you about all the things that I've had to go through, all the things that life has thrown at me, and tell you that I have made it through, and tell you that I can call myself successful today. Because I knew that I had a plan for my life. Now, maybe some of you can relate to that story. Maybe some of you went through a similar college experience, or maybe a similar high school experience. But there's a lot of things that I can't relate to that you're going through. I want you to know something. I want you to know that you have a plan for your life. That you are going to do something great in this life if you just hold on to who you were created to be as a person. Because you were created to do something great. You were. You're going to do something amazing in this life. I don't know what it is, but it is going to be unbelievable. Now, you're probably sitting here saying, who is this guy? Who is this 22-year-old man? He came from Washington, and he's telling us that we're going to do something with our lives. Who is he? I'm 22 years old. I stand 3 feet 4 inches tall. And my arms are only inches long, and my legs don't work properly. And I can call myself successful today. And then when I get up tomorrow morning, I'm going to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I've had a successful life up to now. I'm going to tell myself every time I get up in the morning that I have had a successful life. That I am a success. That you, each and every single one of you, are a success. Now you might be sitting here saying, Gabe, you don't know the decisions I have made. You don't know the mistakes that I have made to mess up, to get me to this point in my life. To be honest with you, I don't. We all make mistakes. I'm not sitting here judging you. I want you to know that. I'm not some guy that's just telling you, you made a bad choice, you're a bad person, so you got to fix it and then you'll be a good person. No. You're a good person right now. You have a plan for your life right now. Your plan is not on hold just because you have to go to meetings once a week. It's a part of it. So embrace it. That's what I did. Like I said, I could easily be sitting in my room doing nothing right now. I could. That choice is handed to me. That choice is handed to you. But to see you sitting in this room, knowing that you want to change your life, shows me. It shows me that you can endure and you can get to where you want to go. You will get there. And don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not. Don't ever let anybody say, you know what, just because you have to go to rehab means that you're not going anywhere with your life. Or just because you have to go to group meetings means you're not going anywhere. That is not true. Like I said, you were all created for a reason. And that reason is to change the world. You are going to change the world. I hope you know that. You're going to. And it's going to be great. My next letter is A, which stands for attitude. Now, I would not be who I am as a person if I did not have my positive attitude. Now, this was not something that I was born with. I did not just come out of my mom and with a big smile on my face and say, "Hey, here's me." I have my bad days. There are days that I want to be negative. I'm human. I am normal. But I know that that's not going to get me anywhere in my life. I know that if I'm a negative person, that I'm not going to go anywhere with my life. When I was younger, I would have little kids. They would stare at me. They would laugh at me. They would make fun of me. They would even go as far as putting their arms in their shirts so that they could look like me. Now, when I was younger, I did not like that. I got mad. I got upset. It frustrated me. My parents, they were able to help me see something different. They were able to help me reframe the situation and see that, maybe those kids aren't making fun of you, but maybe they're just curious as to why you look different. I bet you every single one of you in this room are curious as to why I look different. Just because you're an adult does not mean you're not allowed to be curious. You're not allowed to wonder about people. You were probably wondering who I was, why my arms were short, why I was not standing on my own 2 feet. And that's okay. You're not going to offend me. But like I said, my parents, they were able to help me see it in a more positive way. To now, where some of the things kids say to me, I think they're funny. One time I had a little boy walk into a restaurant I was at. He was about 4 years old. And I knew he was in there. Because when a 4-year-old walks into a restaurant and sees somebody like me, they don't have the best tact, I guess. Or, the best self-control. They're pointing. They're staring with their big bug eyes. They're tugging on their parents' shirts, telling, loudly saying, "Hey, look at that guy over there." So when he walked in, I was smiling at him. I was waving at him. I was doing everything I could do to break this young man's stare, but he did not want to break it. He ended up sitting behind us in the booth. So he would stand up on his chair, and he was trying to peek over the booth to look at me. And then he decided to tell his mom what he thought of me, what he thought I looked like. Oh, remember, this kid was 4. He said, "Mommy, that little boy over there looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex." I laugh every time I tell that story. I remember asking my parents. I said, now did that little boy just call me a prehistoric dinosaur? I said, yes, he did. Now, what that little boy said to me was probably not the most appropriate thing for him to say. His parents were embarrassed. I'm sure if some of you have kids, you would probably be embarrassed if your little boy had said that to somebody. I went up to his parents and I said, don't be embarrassed. Please don't be embarrassed. Because that was probably the funniest thing I had heard all day. Probably the funniest thing I've heard ever. Some kid calling me a T-Rex. To be able to have a positive attitude about something like that has been able to get me places. Has been able to get me to the point where I'm at today. Because if I was 10 years old and that little boy called me a T-Rex, I would have gotten mad. I know it probably would have. But that just shows me, and it shows you how far I have come. You want to know an interesting thing about that story? A year later, I was at a different restaurant. This little boy comes up to me. I didn't know what he was doing. He said, do you remember me? I said, no. I said, I'm the little boy that called you a T-Rex. A year later, this little boy comes up and he finds me and he comes up to me and he calls me a T-Rex again. Saying he would remember calling me that. How cool was that? For me, and probably for that little boy. Something else I really like to do is I like to tell myself positive things. When I get up in the morning and I'll get myself dressed. I'll make myself I look real nice. I go into my parents' bedroom where they have a full-length mirror, and so I can see my whole self. And I'll look in that mirror and I'll tell myself how good I look. I'm serious. I'll look in that mirror and I'll see, you're looking pretty good today. Try it. When you go home, try it. Because it works. Because there's somebody in that mirror talking back to me. Saying that I'm a good-looking young man. Saying that I'm a positive person. Saying that I'm going somewhere in my life. When you go home, try it. Another thing I like to do is when I get up in the morning, I tell myself positive things. Or before, when I present, I tell myself how good I am going to do. Every time I present, even to a small group like this, I tell myself I'm going to do the best job I have ever done. And it works. Because I'm in the middle of doing the best job I have ever done.
You bet, buddy. Good job.
When you can wake up and you can tell yourself those things, and you can be positive about your situation, when you can reframe the situation, you're going places. So many people probably look at this as such a negative thing. They probably look at you and say, look at what you're doing. You have to go to class every week? Do you know what you're doing? You're changing your life. You're making your life better. So how could you associate anything negative with this? Don't ever let anybody tell you that this is a bad place, that what you are doing is bad, because this is probably the best thing you could be doing with your life right now. So tell yourself those things. Tell yourself when you walk into that meeting and saying, you know what, I'm going to have a good meeting today. Or when you go into work, you tell yourself you're going to have a good day at work. Tell yourself positive things. be a positive person. It has gotten me to 22 years of my life. It will get me to the next 22 years of my life. It works. Just try it. Try it for a day. Will you do that for me? Will you just try it for a day? And see what happens. I bet you have a good day tomorrow. I bet. I'm not going to put any guarantees, but I bet you have a good day tomorrow. And the last letter is R, which stands for respect. Now, you are all adults here. So you know about respecting your authority. But I still want to talk about it. Because the people that help you, the people that work here, their job is to help you. Their job is to make your life better. To give you the tools so that when you're done with this, you can go and do life on your own. So they might ask you to do something that you don't necessarily think is something you can do. Or maybe it's something that you don't want to do because you don't think it will benefit you. Out of respect for the people that work here, and that their job is to help you make your life better. Do it. Because if you can respect them, they'll respect you back. And then everything will just click. You won't have to worry about anything. Respect each other. Again, I know we're all adults here. I know you know what it is like to respect your peers. But it's still something you need to do. Respect each other's story. Respect each other's problem. Don't go saying, oh, you have a worse problem than I do. What makes your problem worse than anybody else's? You're all going through something. It doesn't matter whether it's this big or this big. It's a problem. So respect each other's. Respect your coworkers at work if you go to work. I realize sometimes they might be cranky. And they might not be the easiest to work with. I realize that. But just have that respect for them. Because then again, like I said, they will respect you back. And there's nothing better than being able to go up to somebody and respecting them and then them just saying, I'm going to respect you right back. It's like me. I respect every single one of you in this room for doing what you're doing. Like I said, I've never gone through something like this, so I don't know what it is like. So I respect you for that. I respect you for making that decision to do it, because I can't imagine how hard it is. I can't imagine what some of the things that you have to go through. That's the kind of respect I'm talking about. Lastly, respect yourself. You know you all are respecting yourself right now by making this decision. That's step one, I think. You're respecting yourself enough to say, you know what, I'm done with these things. These things that I have been doing have not been helping me. They have not been getting me to where I want to go with my life, so I'm going to stop. You know, at the schools that I've been speaking at, it's been Red Ribbon Week for the last 3 weeks. And we've been talking about saying no to drugs and alcohol. But the fact that you are making that decision to say no. To say no to those things that maybe have held you back for the last however many years of your life. That's respecting yourself. You know, I had a choice when I was young. My choice was to cut my arms and cut my legs off so I could get prosthetics. My parents gave me that choice. I thank God every day that they did not make that choice for me. I decided not to do it, obviously. The reason I decided not to go through with it is because I believe I was created to be who I am. I believe I was created to be 3 feet 4 inches tall. I believe my arms were created to only be inches long and my legs were not supposed to work. I believe that. You want to know why? Because I'm using what I have. And I'm telling people just like you my story. I did not want to do that because I respected myself too much. To just call myself tall. Just so I could say I was, instead of 3 feet 4, I'm 5 foot 5. Or just so I could say, instead of my arms being 3 inches long, they're now 9 inches long. I did not want to do that. Because I'm happy with the way I am. I'm happy with who I am. You know, being 3 feet tall gives me an opportunity to do things that you can't do at 5'10" or whatever. Did you see me get up on that chair? Can you do that? Can you do it like I can?
Probably not.
It gives me an opportunity to do things that are challenging. And you want to know the coolest part about respecting yourself? Is that you don't care about what other people think about you. You stop caring about what other people think. I stopped caring about what people thought of me a long, long time ago. And look where it's got me. You know, if you can respect yourself, other people will in turn respect you. And if you can get people to respect you, you'll go a long way. You want to know what the coolest thing about you is? Each and every single one of you have a story. And I think it needs to be heard. I really do. Whether it's through public speaking, whether it's through writing a book, whether it's doing a blog on the internet, I think it's something that you need to do. To share your story with other people. So that you can be the leader in other people's lives when they think their world is ending. I want you to do that. I want you to find an avenue to tell your story. Will you do that for me? Somehow, some way. I don't care what it is. If it's a book, if it is public speaking. If you want to be a public speaker, you come talk to me and I'll help you. But I want you to be able to tell your story because you have a story. Then you can change the world with your story. You will change the world with your story. I know it. If you can get all five of these things, you better watch out. Because you guys are coming. If you can get one of these things, man. All you got to do is take those sunglasses off and turn the lights on to your car. And then you can see where you're going. You can see your destination. And then when you see your destination, you're going to want to work 10 times harder than you already are. I know I do. Have a clear perspective. So that when other people see you, they can have a clear perspective. And then when other people see them, they can have a clear perspective. And then when other people see them, they can have a clear perspective. And it goes on and on and on and on until the rest of the world is seeing clearly. I believe that's what I'm supposed to do, is spread this message around the world. So that kids and people like you can be inspired. Did you guys have fun?
Yes.
I can't thank you enough for having me come and speak to you guys.
Thank you.
This is, honestly, this is probably the coolest group I've ever spoken to. This is probably the funnest group I've ever spoken to. I know we haven't been, hooting and hollering and jumping around and stuff, but to be able to talk to people that are going through a rough situation and letting them know that there is hope in this world, it's fun for me. I get a kick out of this. I don't know if you know that already. So thank you for letting me have some fun for the last hour and 5 minutes. It's been a very fun time for me. And I hope you get a lot out of this. Now, I wasn't planning on doing this. I don't know how many books do we have? Do you know? I want to give each one of you a book. Because I want you to walk away with something. I usually don't do that. I did not write this book for me, ladies and gentlemen. I wrote this book for you. I don't care how much money I make off of this thing. If I make a penny, I did my job. So I want to give each and every single one of you one of these. I want to sign it so that you can go away touched by something, by someone. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, today I was at work and I had two